Hello everyone. In today's case, a woman trying to escape the dark world of trafficking and addiction would be found dead in a motel room. But despite the evidence that is said to have been found, her case would end up being closed, and her family would still be fighting for answers decades later. 22-year-old Ashley Jalbert was born at 12:34 p.m. on July 31st of 1987 to her mother Yvette and her father Barry. She also had 7 siblings named Brandon, Brittany, Cody, Jenna, Matthew, Andre, and Bradley. Ashley grew up in Sudbury, Ontario, also known as Greater Sudbury, which is a city of around 170,000 residents located 400 kilometers north of Toronto and 500 kilometers northeast of Ottawa. After this, she spent time in Oshawa before returning to Sudbury in 2001. Ashley was said to be an excellent student and was looking forward to pursuing studies in the health field. She was an avid shopper, an inspired dancer, a great cook, and committed to excellence in physical fitness. She took pride in her appearance and had a positive attitude towards life. She was a generous person, quick to help others, and she had a profound spirituality in God. Despite the happiness in Ashley's life, she also would end up experiencing some of the darker things that the world can offer. In the early 2000s, Ashley was dancing at a club in southern Ontario when she was lured into the escort business. According to family, an acquaintance recruited Ashley into being trafficked by 2 unnamed men. They made it look glamorous by saying, "Okay, give me some of your money and we're going to put it in a pot, and at the end of the month, we're going to have all of this money." Ashley was thankfully able to escape in 2008, and that is when she would once again move back to Sudbury. But the men would follow her there, and they began calling her at her parents' home. Yvette saying, quote, "It was a case of, you escaped, so now you owe me. You can't get out of that lifestyle without consequences." End quote. One of these men were even said to confront Ashley outside of the former Shaughnessy's pub in downtown Sudbury and put a gun to her head, threatening to kill her. Ashley would end up telling her mom after this happened, who recounted that she was terrified. In August of 2009, Ashley would attend a rehab program, and then she would return home by December of that year. Only a month later, on the evening of January 9th of 2010, Ashley would have dinner at her mother's home in Coniston. She was reported to be completely fine and her normal energetic self. That is, until around 1 a.m., which was then January 10th, when there seemed to be a family dispute between Ashley and one of her sisters. The information surrounding that is very vague and a little bit confusing. Ashley's stepfather would recall seeing her crying and looking for the cordless phone because her cell phone was not charged. And Yvette would say that Ashley had felt the need to go and look for her sister. After this, Ashley ended up phoning a man who I've seen Yvette refer to as one of Ashley's sister's boyfriends, who would end up picking her up around 1:30 a.m. After this, according to one of Ashley's friends, she was seen at a local bar between 1:30 a.m. to 2 a.m. and shared a drink. Everything again seemed fine, and Ashley ended up leaving. Then sometime within the next few hours, Ashley ended up in room number 4 at the Moonlight Inn & Suites Motel in Sudbury. A maid who was checking the rooms at the motel at approximately 7 a.m. would enter room 4, but thought that the occupant, who was Ashley, was sleeping, so the maid ended up leaving. However, after that same maid returned after 11 a.m. and still noticed that Ashley hadn't moved whatsoever, she would end up calling 911. By noon that day, Ashley would be found by first responders laying on the motel bed on her side with no vital signs, and she would end up being pronounced dead at the scene. Authorities would arrive at Ashley's parents' home around 3:30 p.m. to deliver the news, and Yvette would pull into her driveway that day to find the police speaking to her husband. Despite the strange circumstances we're going to talk about, Ashley's death was pretty quickly ruled an accident, and police would close the investigation into her death. Despite this ruling, Ashley's family wasn't going to just go without answers and settle. They weren't satisfied, and they wanted to know what happened to Ashley. According to the Facebook page set up called Justice for Ashley Jalbert, 1987 to 2010, the man from the motel room would end up coming forward to police just 2 days after Ashley's death, claiming that Ashley had wanted him to get this motel room because she wanted photos taken of her. He claims the 2 of them checked in around 2:40 a.m., but a fake name and a fake license plate number were used to register for the room. He then claims Ashley went to sleep around 5 a.m. Before leaving, the man would end up leaving 2 notes. The first reading, I tried to wake you, but you're a really hard person to wake. The second reading, I have to go. Here's $20 for a cab. XOXO. Now let's talk a little bit about the evidence and the information we know surrounding Ashley's death. Ashley's time of death was estimated to be between 4 a.m. to 6 a.m., and she was found to have alcohol and a small amount of oxycodone in her system, around 0.05 milligrams. Oxycodone is an opioid used to relieve severe pain. And from what I read after Google got mad at me for my wording, is that according to the Mayo Clinic's website, adults can be prescribed 9 milligrams every 12 hours with food. So that tells me, if the information is correct, that 0.05 milligrams technically shouldn't be enough to cause someone to overdose. Now correct me if I'm wrong. Let me know. Unless this 0.05 milligrams isn't correct and she had a lot more in her system, or is there just something we don't know, like it could have metabolized in the body before they tested it? I am not an expert in that field, so that is something, obviously, I don't know. Let me know if you know more about that. But I feel like if she had OD'd right after taking it, then wouldn't it still be in her system? I don't know. I feel like normally if someone ODs on something, it would show up in toxicology, like the amount that they took, you know? Again, unless that 0.05 milligrams is incorrect. But then when you take that information and then you learn that there was allegedly lesions on her lower lip, a small puncture wound on her upper lip, and also small purple-red spots in her eyes called petechia, which can indicate death by asphyxiation, it really makes you begin to question things. From the information I read, her body was also found to have lividity, which is the settling of blood in the body when someone dies. It will usually indicate the position that they died in. Ashley's lividity was said to be found on either her front and or her back. However, she was said to be found laying on her side. So why would the lividity not be on her side that she was laying on? That would normally indicate that someone was moved. Again, unless this information that's being provided out there is incorrect. However, I don't know why the family would be providing incorrect information, especially because they want to get justice in the end. And clearly this information upsets them enough to continue to fight. Items found at the scene included a pair of size 5.5 girls' Nike running shoes. However, Ashley wore size 8s, a Razr phone charger. Ashley had a BlackBerry phone, and a jacket that was 2 sizes too big for Ashley, as well as a pair of blue sweatpants. Both were items Ashley never wore. Yvette saying, quote, "We had a meeting with police and they gave Ashley's belongings back to me. I told the officer, I'm not going to stop with this case. If you want to close the case, that's fine. I won't stop investigating. He agreed with me as a parent. He said it could be reopened, but we would have to have the hard facts." End quote. The unnamed male who was with Ashley in the hours surrounding her death is known to police. It's also been noted that 2 men were said to be at the motel the night that Ashley died, and that these 2 men fit the description of Ashley's traffickers. Now, as I was researching this case, I was also watching Stephanie Harlow's coverage on a case out of Galesburg, Illinois, where a young man named Tyler Smith was found dead in a drainage ditch, but police very immediately ruled his death accidental as well. His family has also been fighting for answers, and it really reminds me of Ashley's case in that way, where police didn't even take the time to rule out the possibility of foul play. They just skipped over it completely, it seems, which to me is ridiculous. Retired FBI agent Jennifer Coffendoffer said something similar during an interview with Sebastian Rogers' father, Seth Rogers. She essentially said that the authorities should always initially look at a death as a homicide until they can rule out the idea of a homicide with evidence and other factors. But as we look at both Tyler and Ashley's cases as examples, as far as their families are concerned, police never did that. But if the information we have here is true, how can they look at petechia in the eyes and simply just skip over that? How can you look at such little drugs in her system and think that it was an OD? Yvette would put up 2 billboards located at the intersection of LaSalle Boulevard and Falcon Bridge Highway and on Highway 17 near Bob's Husky. These billboards would feature Ashley's picture and contact information stating, "What happened to our Ashley?"
It's been more than a year since 22-year-old Ashley Jalbert of Sudbury was found dead in a local motel. The case is now closed, but her mom is still searching for more answers. CTV's Stella Quisto reports.
Yvette Jalbert can't help but ask questions when she stares at this picture of her daughter. Ashley Jalbert would have celebrated her 24th birthday on Sunday, but more than a year ago she was found dead in this motel. Police opened an investigation, the coroner ordered an autopsy, and there was a toxicology report. In the end, Ashley's death was labeled accidental. Traces of oxycodone and alcohol were found in her body.
What I'm concerned about right now is the fact that the case was closed after just 7 months.
Jalbert acknowledges her daughter had a history of drug abuse, but she's never been satisfied with the findings. When the police shut down their investigation, she started her own.
The lead investigator told us that the case was closed. He took me by the hand, like this, and he said, the case can be reopened. And I said, but, and he said, yes, it's gotta be solid evidence.
Since that conversation, Jalbert has been looking for a way to pry the case open again. She's interviewed a number of people connected with the case, including the man last seen with her daughter. She claims those interviews have turned some serious contradictions that need to be resolved. Ashley's friend Molly McDowell agrees. That's why she started this petition. So far, she's collected nearly 1,000 signatures.
Her mother, I feel for her. I just felt that there were so many unanswered questions, and I felt like something had to be done about it. So these were the steps that we started to maybe get the case reopened again and go from there.
If our police force cannot see the red flags, I'm ashamed.
Members of the Criminal Investigation Unit have declined our request for an on-camera interview, but say there is no evidence of foul play, and the case will remain closed.
As the years began to pass with no interest from law enforcement, the family would end up hiring a PI. They also hosted a walk in honor of Ashley in 2012 to bring attention back to her case. Yvette emphasized that the walk was not meant to be a protest, but to quietly bring awareness to the family's plight, as well as to gain support for the petition. Yvette saying, quote, "I don't think I've ever grieved. I'm too busy. Sure, I cry at home, but I'm so focused on fighting this, I won't stop. I'm too determined. We're trying to raise awareness towards Ashley's death. We want the whole thing right from the beginning reinvestigated. I'm talking medically and policing. I don't feel comfortable with what's gone on in her case. I know in my heart that Ashley would want me to do this, and that's a big part of it. Ashley was very loving and caring. Mostly, she was known to help people. No matter how much she was hurting inside, she always brought others up." End quote.
Ashley was bubbly, vivacious. She was always the one wanting to be social and get all of us girls together. She was a friendly, social person and would never hurt a fly. She's very caring, big heart. Well, it's been devastating, to be honest, to not only lose a friend, but then really have no answers to any of our questions as to what happened. We've been kind of left in the dark. We've done the best we can to be there for Yvette, Ashley's mother, and support her efforts. But it's been very hard. If anything, this has brought us girls closer together, but there's still that missing piece.
We're trying to raise awareness towards Ashley's death. I don't want no noise or protesting. I don't want protesting. Just a quiet walk to raise awareness and also we're hoping to get more signatures on our change.org petition so we can have the case reopened. She had a lot of friends. She knew a lot of people. Some good, some bad, but mostly she was known to help people. She was. That's another thing. Through her investigation, I've had people say to me, "Oh God, I remember when I was so distraught and I met Ashley and she brought me up and she cheered me up and that's the way she was." No matter how much she was hurting inside, she always brought others up, She was known for that.
I think Ashley deserves to have some answers.
Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but this family just wants closure. They want justice for Ashley because they believe wholeheartedly that either someone left Ashley to die or they did something that contributed to her death. And when you look at all of the strange items left in that room, the clothing that was too big for her, the shoes that were 3 sizes too small, and then the state of her body, it really makes you wonder. Sadly, in 2024, Yvette would post that a few of the people suspected to be involved with Ashley's death had also passed away, except for one individual. This one individual may hold the answers for this family. Now, unfortunately, the petition that the family had up to reopen Ashley's case, as far as I seen, was taken down now. It's not available to sign. However, there are many other ways we can continue to support this family and support their rally for answers for Ashley. You could go show them support on their Facebook. You could share Ashley's picture out. You could share her story out. This sadly isn't an isolated incident. There are countless amount of women, and men included, who are involved in these very high-risk lifestyles, who get dragged in and tricked into participating in these high-risk lifestyles, or even forced to participate in these high-risk lifestyles without knowing the true consequences. And then when they try to leave, they aren't allowed to just go on with their lives. These dark things can follow them. And even though Ashley moved away, even though she was trying to get help, as a lot of these cases we talk about, when someone tries to get help, that seems to be when they're in the most danger. Right when Ashley tried her best, something bad happened to her. And now her family is left without answers. My heart goes out to Ashley's family. I truly, truly hope you all get answers eventually. This was a young girl that had so much potential, yet for some reason that was all taken away from her that night at that motel room. If you have the answers that could lead to this family's closure, I'll leave the contact information down below. And as always, I hope you all stay safe out there, lock your windows and doors, and I hope to see you in the next video.